caricature aside, it's an interesting question that I think that one should at least ponder if one is of a philosophical bent in terms of whether or not God exists or whether or not the universe is a spiritual place. Purpose. Why are we here? What does all of this mean? What does anything mean? Very interesting question, and it's definitely not a new one. The ancient Romans were an eminently practical race of people. They tended to leave all the airy-fairy stuff to the ancient Greeks. They admired the Greeks, but somewhat looked down on them. The comparison is always made these days between the Europeans and the Americans. The Americans are practical, bluff kind of people, whereas the Europeans are artistic, but incapable of doing anything and incapable of getting along with each other. That's kind of the way that the two sides saw each other. There was another element to this, though. The Romans had another interesting, almost symbiotic relationship with another culture much closer to their own, the Etruscans. The Romans lived around the city of Rome, as you might expect, and just directly to the north, in the region which is now Tuscany, it was called Etruria to the Romans, were the Etruscans. And many ancient Roman writers noted just how different the mindset was between these two peoples. The Romans were practical. The Etruscans were, I suppose one could say grossly, they were spiritual people. They were in much closer touch with the unseen, or at least the Romans believed that they were. A Roman might be busy building huge monuments or conquering foreign lands or planning big projects, but if he wanted to have his palm read, or if he wanted to know what his child's future was going to be like, or he wanted to find out whether or not some woman he had never met would make a good wife, he went to an Etruscan soothsayer. Because the Etruscans were the people that were supposedly in closer touch with the parallel universe, the spiritual universe, or the universe of gods and spirits and things like this. And the Romans often noted this and wrote about it and sort of were fascinated and still repelled by it. Seneca, writing about it in the 1st century AD, he said, if you want to really understand the difference between the Romans and the Etruscans, you have to bear in mind that the difference in mindset is such that their entire universe looks different from ours. Whereas we say that lightning is caused by the collision of clouds, they say clouds collide in order to produce lightning. Now that's an interesting placing of the cart and the horse, and I don't think it's really a position that one can do anything more than take sides on. Does the universe and everything that happens, does it have a reason? The Etruscans said yes. The Romans said, well, we don't know. I tend to agree with the Romans, but I'm also interested in the Etruscan point of view. The Etruscans didn't claim that they knew the reasons. They said that there were reasons out there, and it was very hard to understand them. Kind of the Irish proverb, the Lord moves in mysterious ways. We know that there's a reason out there. It's just very hard for us to figure it out. And so this kind of idea of purpose is, I think, one of the oldest ideas, the oldest philosophical ideas that there's ever been. And you see it raging today in cyberspace. Does this place have a reason? Do things have a reason? We don't know. On another interesting side of things, kind of unrelated, with the Romans' relationship with the Etruscans, in a way mirrors my view of the West's relationship to India. I'm inclined to say the Hindu world, but that's not exactly true either, because if you look at India's various religious minorities, they've taken on many aspects of Hinduism, including the Muslims, by the way. And the Hindu or the Indian universe seems to be the counterpart of today's version of the Etruscans and the Romans. While the Western human being is busy puzzling his way through everything, building rocket ships and this kind of thing. India is busy pondering the nature of the universe. Now, this is kind of silly because India is well equipped with technicians, nuclear physicists, a homegrown technology, but still the difference seems to be that the West believes that lightning is caused by clouds colliding, whereas in India, clouds collide to produce lightning. You don't have to be an ignorant person to believe that, or an uneducated person to believe that the universe or things in it have a purpose. It's just a question of which side you happen to be on. And again, another thing about immersing myself in, as much as it's possible for a foreigner to immerse himself in a completely different cultural milieu with more or less short visits. I've noticed among all the other peoples that I visited, I don't think I've ever seen people that I thought were more different mentally to me, or philosophically to me, than the Indians. This great mental chasm, cultural chasm, which is there. And I think that a lot of other people may have noted this as well. The Chinese, actually, when you get right down to it, I found are very similar to us. So many other people, they're not all really all that different, but the Indians, yes, and I would say that the Indians are different to us, are different from us in the same way as a Roman and Etruscan would see the difference. To the Indian, at least as compared to us, everything happens for a reason. There's a reason for everything. There's a purpose for everything. We don't really know what that is. Or maybe we don't know, but there is a reason out there. And you meet up with this kind of thing in surprising quarters in India. A person who's highly educated, might be a doctor or a chemical engineer or something, will blithely discuss a miracle with you in the same way that I might discuss the act of putting sugar in my tea in the morning. It's just that the assumptions underlying the fundamental nature of reality are different from the very beginning. So, does the universe have a purpose? I'm afraid I'm going to have to hedge again and say I honestly don't know. But I won't say that it doesn't. And I hope that it does. Thank you.